There was a time when every backyard garden in America had crops that most people today have never even heard of. These weren't exotic imports. They were everyday staples that kept families fed for generations. Somewhere along the way, we forgot about them. Today, we're bringing back 15 old-fashioned garden crops that deserve a place in your garden again. Number 1. Salsify. Known as the oyster plant because of its surprisingly seafood-like flavor, salsify was once a staple in American kitchens. This root vegetable thrives in poor soil, survives harsh winters, and tastes incredible in soups and stews. Yet today, you'd be hard-pressed to find it in any grocery store. Number 2. Good King Henry. This leafy green was grown in every colonial garden in America. It works like spinach, but comes back year after year without replanting. The young shoots can even be eaten like asparagus. One plant, 2 vegetables, and almost nobody grows it anymore. Number 3. Scorzonera, also called black salsify. This root vegetable has a rich, nutty flavor that Europeans have loved for centuries. It's packed with nutrients, stores beautifully through winter, and once planted, practically takes care of itself. Number 4. Krosnes. These tiny, spiral-shaped tubers look like something from another planet, but they were a common garden crop 100 years ago. Crunchy, slightly sweet, and perfect for pickling. They grow underground and spread on their own year after year. Number 5. Cardoon. If you've ever seen an artichoke plant, imagine its bigger, wilder cousin. Cardoon stalks were braised, fried, and baked in kitchens across the Mediterranean and early America. It's dramatic, delicious, and almost completely forgotten. Number 6. Rutabaga. Once called the poor man's potato, rutabaga kept entire families alive during hard winters. It stores for months in a root cellar, mashes beautifully, and has a sweet, earthy flavor that puts regular turnips to shame. Number 7. Mache, also known as corn salad. This delicate green was a winter garden essential for generations. It grows in cold weather when nothing else will, has a mild, nutty taste, and requires almost no care at all. Number 8. Celeriac. This ugly root vegetable may not win any beauty contests, but the flavor is extraordinary, creamy, celery-like, and perfect for soups and gratins. European grandmothers swore by it, and American gardeners have all but abandoned it. Number 9. Orac, sometimes called mountain spinach. Before modern spinach took over, orac was the leafy green in American gardens. It comes in stunning shades of red, gold, and green, tolerates heat far better than spinach, and self-seeds like a dream. Number 10. Hamburg parsley. Most people know parsley as a garnish, but this variety grows a thick, flavorful root underground. You get fresh parsley leaves on top and a parsnip-like root below. 2 harvests from one plant, and our grandparents knew it well. Number 11. Skirret. This sweet root vegetable was a favorite in medieval and colonial gardens. The roots are small but incredibly sweet, sometimes called nature's candy. Plant it once and it comes back every single year. Number 12. New Zealand spinach. Unlike regular spinach that bolts the moment summer arrives, New Zealand spinach thrives in heat. It sprawls across the ground, producing tender leaves all summer long. Our grandparents grew it when regular spinach gave up long. Number 13. Alexanders. Before celery was widely cultivated, Alexanders filled that role in the kitchen. Every part is edible: stems, leaves, buds, and roots. It was one of the most important potherbs in early America, and now almost no one recognizes it. Number 14. Earth chestnut. These small underground tubers taste remarkably like real chestnuts. They were foraged and grown for centuries across Europe and colonial America. Easy to grow, delicious raw or roasted, and completely off the modern radar. There was a time in America when money was scarce, but love wasn't. During the Great Depression, families had almost nothing in their pantries. Yet somehow, Grandma always managed to put a warm meal on the table. These weren't fancy recipes. They were made with whatever was on hand: flour, lard, potatoes, and a whole lot of creativity. Today, we're looking back at 25 Depression-era recipes that stretched every last penny and still fed an entire family. You might be surprised how many of these you still remember. Let's start with one that sounds impossible: water pie. No milk, no eggs, just water, butter, flour, sugar, and a dash of vanilla. Poured into a simple pie crust and baked until golden. It came out custardy and sweet, and children loved it. It was proof that even with almost nothing, you could still make something that felt like a treat. When times got tough, potatoes were king. A big pot of potato soup could feed a family of 8 for pennies. Just potatoes, water, a little butter, salt, and pepper. Some families added an onion if they had one. It was thick, warm, and filling. The kind of meal that made you forget, even for a moment, how hard things really were. Named after President Hoover, this stew is made from whatever you could find. Usually hot dogs, canned tomatoes, canned corn, and macaroni. It wasn't elegant, but it was hot, hearty, and could stretch to feed the whole neighborhood. Many families made this once a week, sometimes more. Nothing was wasted during the Depression, especially not bread. Stale bread got a second life as bread pudding, soaked in a mixture of milk, eggs, sugar, and a little cinnamon, then baked until golden. Families considered this a real dessert, and it cost almost nothing to make. Also called SOS by the soldiers who ate it in the military. Thin slices of dried beef in a creamy white sauce, poured over toast. It was salty, rich, and incredibly cheap. One small jar of chipped beef could feed a family breakfast or dinner. A big pot of bean soup was a lifesaver. Navy beans or pinto beans, slow cooked with a ham bone if you were lucky enough to have one. If not, just water, salt, and maybe a little onion. It simmered all day on the stove, filling the house with a smell that made everything feel a little more hopeful. Cornbread was a staple in almost every Depression-era household. Just cornmeal, a little flour, baking powder, and water. No eggs, no milk if you didn't have them. Baked in a cast-iron skillet with a bit of lard. Served alongside beans, soup, or just eaten plain with a drizzle of molasses. When you couldn't afford vegetables from the store, you picked them from the yard. Dandelion greens were free, nutritious, and available everywhere. Tossed with a little vinegar, bacon drippings if you had them, and a boiled egg sliced on top. It was a real salad, and it didn't cost a dime. This was Clara Canachari's recipe: potatoes, onions, and hot dogs fried together in a skillet. Simple, cheap, and absolutely delicious. Clara lived through the Depression and later shared this recipe with millions online. It became a symbol of making do with what you had. When someone in the family was sick, or when there just wasn't much else, milk toast was the answer. Toasted bread in a bowl, covered with warm milk, a little butter, and a sprinkle of sugar. It was soft, comforting, and easy to eat. Many people today still remember their grandmothers making this. Not the Chinese restaurant version, this was the American Depression-era version. Just boiling water or broth with a beaten egg swirled in, a little salt, and maybe some crackers crumbled on top. One egg could make soup for 3 or 4 people. A thick slice of bologna, fried in a pan until the edges curled up and got crispy, served on white bread with mustard. For many families, this was the only meat they'd eat all week. Kids thought it was a real treat. This one sounds strange, but it was real. Onions were hollowed out, stuffed with peanut butter, and baked. It was published in actual Depression-era cookbooks. Protein from the peanut butter, fiber from the onion. It was practical, even if it sounds unusual today. Also called crazy cake, a chocolate cake made with no eggs, no butter, and no milk. The secret ingredients? Vinegar and baking soda for the rise, and vegetable oil for moisture. Mixed right in the baking pan, it was moist, chocolatey, and perfect proof that you didn't need expensive ingredients to bake something wonderful. Cooked navy beans, mashed up with a fork, spread on bread, sometimes with a little mustard or onion. It sounds plain, but it was filling and packed with protein. Many school children carried these in their lunch pails. In the South, tomato gravy was poured over everything. Biscuits, rice, toast, made from canned tomatoes, flour, a little grease, salt, and pepper. It was tangy, savory, and stretched a can of tomatoes into a meal for the whole table. Similar to water pie, but with vinegar as the key ingredient. Vinegar, butter, sugar, flour, and eggs, baked into a custardy filling. It tasted surprisingly like lemon pie, and lemons were a luxury most families couldn't afford. Ground beef, if you could afford it, or just beans, mixed with macaroni and canned tomatoes, seasoned with chili powder. One pot, one burner, fed the whole family. This recipe survived the Depression and is still a weeknight staple in many American homes today. A handful of oats cooked in broth or water until thick, with salt and whatever scraps of vegetables you had. It wasn't glamorous, but it was warm and filling. Some families ate this for breakfast and dinner. This one is hard to imagine today. Just bread spread with lard, sprinkled with a little salt or sugar. That was lunch. That was dinner. For the poorest families, this was sometimes all there was. It reminds us just how difficult those times really were. If you had buttermilk, flour, lard, and baking powder, you had biscuits. Golden, flaky, and perfect for soaking up gravy or soup. Grandmothers made these by feel. No measuring cups needed. The recipe was in their hands. Don't let the name fool you. This was whatever leftovers you had. Vegetables, beans, a little meat if possible, layered in a baking dish and baked until bubbly. Every family had their own version. Nothing was ever thrown away. A Midwestern classic. Cream, sugar, flour, and vanilla, poured into a pie shell and baked. No fruit needed. It was silky, sweet, and felt like real luxury. Many Hoosier families still make this exact recipe today. Cornmeal cooked into a thick porridge, poured into a loaf pan, and chilled overnight. The next morning, sliced and fried in lard until crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. Served with maple syrup or molasses. Kids loved it. Adults loved it. Everyone loved it. We end with the most symbolic recipe of all, stone soup. A little bit of everything from everyone. One neighbor brought a potato, another an onion, another a carrot. Alone, no one had enough, but together, they made a soup that fed them all. That was the real spirit of the Depression. Not just survival, but community. These recipes came from the hardest of times, but they also came from the strongest of people. Our grandparents didn't have much, but they had each other, and they had the wisdom to make something from almost nothing. If any of these recipes brought back a memory for you, maybe the smell of cornbread in a cast-iron skillet, or the taste of bread pudding on a Sunday night, share it with us in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And if you want more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. We'll keep bringing back the memories, so they're never forgotten.